Hello, hello, hello. It is episode 27 of Lines on a Page, and it's also going to be the second anime related thing that we are doing this year, specifically also this month, of it being Anime 2023. So, that being said, welcome, guys. I hope you all had a really good Mother's Day. If you guys happen to have any of that going on, or if it was just a normal Sunday for you guys or girls out there, uh, I hope it was good. So, speaking of Sailor Moon and all things about that, at Haven Comics, we actually do have, if you can see, which I will throw this right here, but it is the first chapter of the very first arc of Sailor Moon, which we happen to have in the shop. And I want to say that we got this last fall, right before. I want to say it was right before. Well, actually, no, it was after I came back from Savannah Comic Con and right before I left for Baltimore. So it was around September, October when we got this into the store. So if you want this, or you know someone who's a diehard fan of Sailor Moon, it is here at the shop. So that aside, we're going to scoot on over and do some quick housekeeping before we get into the rest of everything else. And Haven Comics is located 1871 Slaughter Road, Suite F in Madison, Alabama. And if you happen to like the show and any other show that we happen to have going on, please remember to like and subscribe. Every like, subscription, follow, share, comments, notifications, you name it, it helps us immensely. And if you happen to wonder where you can find me on social media, you can like and follow me through my link tree, which you can find me as at T Price Artworks, and that is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I am also, even though it is kind of silent, on Tumblr, Hive, and Mastodon. And I do have a Patreon, by the way, in which certain things that you might not ever see as whatever I end up posting on social media, it's all exclusive over there. Any exclusive thing that I do is going to be through Patreon. So, all of that housekeeping out of the way. Sailor Moon. So, if you were growing up in the late 90s, early 2000s, chances are, if you were living in America, your first interaction with Sailor Moon was probably through Cartoon Network's Toonami. Because I definitely can say for sure I was the same way. And actually, around the same time period that I found out about Sailor Moon, I had also found out about basically my favorite Studio Ghibli film, Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind. Now, both of these, so Nausicaa technically movie, but also technically, I think it was like a 5 or 6 volume manga. I could be wrong about that. Whereas Sailor Moon, which was a much lengthier series, had a whole anime run and several movies. There's 2 friends of mine who are diehard Sailor Moon fans, so they could spill all the knowledge regarding all of that. And I've had to pick their brains a couple of times just to make sure I got all my facts correctly, because it's been really forever since I've really had to, sit down and go down nostalgia lane just to find out about all this stuff. But so even though that Nausicaa Valley of the Wind technically has a strong female lead character with Sailor Moon, even though technically, yes, she is the lead, but she is also part of the team in which, if I remember correctly, and if someone happens to know more about this than I do, please correct me on this, but I'm going to venture to say that in the magical schoolgirl genre, Sailor Moon is the front runner manga and anime series regarding it. And there were a couple others in the same time period, like Cardcaptor Sakura, Matching Night Ray Earth, and I don't know. It's probably several others. So, anyways, the whole shoujo type thing, it's kind of uncharted waters for me. I really don't know much about it, but I do remember watching several episodes of Sailor Moon when I was in middle school. And which I said, at the same time I found out about that, at the same time I found out about Studio Ghibli and some of the early films. So it was interesting to see two different sides of the coin, but also kind of getting towards, you can tell that good is good and bad is bad. There isn't like a lot of gray area stuff comparison to shoujo or seinen comics, which it actually just kind of got to a point where I started seeing a terminology popping up within like maybe the last 15 years called bishoujo. And I was trying to figure out what is the difference between the two, and I found out that while shoujo is a genre specifically aimed towards a target audience, which is young girls, bishoujo translates to beautiful girls, beautiful women, and it's really not so much a genre as it is a hold on, about to pull up the terminology. Refers to gender and trait of the character it describes, whereas shoujo refers to gender and age of an audience demographic. So, special thanks to Wikipedia for breaking that down. But anyways, we're going to be doing a couple different things with today's show. We're going to be talking about how I render hair, specifically a character that happens to have blonde hair. We're also going to be talking about folds in clothing, which she has in spades. And then last but not least, tackling the whole kind of bishoujo kind of look, which in some ways, depending on, I guess, target audience, depending on the genre that you're going for, sometimes the terminology of bishoujo could be referenced as good girl art, which in the West we refer to that as pinup art. So not always exactly the same, but it's kind of like loosely in that realm of water, but not really. So that being said, we're going to hit to the board. Hello, post-it notes. Be gone. So for those of you who happen to have been at Izzy's during Free Comic Book Day, thank you guys so much for getting stuff at my table. Regardless if you were actually in the store or you were buying stuff through the live sale that Tim did, that helped all of us out. So thank you so much. I do have 3 or 4 sketch covers that I've got to send out. So those will be sent out this week. Don't worry. I've already told Tim, so he knows, and we're back in the game, back in business. So, let's see. We are going to do something a little bit out of the ordinary, and think, just to make things interesting. I'm not sure if you guys have seen the Sailor Moon meme, but apparently there was this art challenge going on where they took a specific random shot frame or whatever of Sailor Moon, and apparently someone decided to turn it into a meme. Smashing! Sailor Thornberry in the house. So we're not doing that. As much as you guys will want me to, we're not doing that. And don't worry, I'm not going to sneak in Thornberry whatsoever. So I have pulled up a couple of different references just to make sure that I've got all my ducks in a row. And I think we are going to go ahead and get the frame down first, and then I'm going to drop in the background, which is going to be basically a crescent moon. And lift it a little bit higher. So, like always, lightly sketching the frame so I can get an idea. And of course, with the camera just being right here in my face, look a little bit on the strange side. And so basically, when I think of the spine, doing that number. All right, so continuing on, laying down the idea of the frame where everything is going to be. So I remember correctly, which of course I'm also got the poster right in front of me. Um, in typical Sailor Moon fashion, she's going to have doing the prototypical peace sign that she always does. All right, then kneecaps. Abs. And feet. And I'm just going to use this to make sure that I've got feet down, at least level. So that's that. So I want to make sure that we don't have one leg just automatically longer than the other, even though that's an actual medical condition. That's not the case with our main character. Right. And she technically has a little baton weapon thing. And we're going to put that right there. Okay. So with that being in place, and we can move along, and I'm going to be using this guy. And I really like the uh, circumference of this, which is perfect for putting a moon behind her. Which you're probably thinking, oh my God, it's not symmetrical. It needs to be symmetrical. Well, not everything is. But for the sake of putting this thing together, uh, we are going to have it slightly asymmetrical. And the reason being is that while it's a little bit towards on this side of the page, her skirt's going to be flowing over here, hair is going to be flowing a little bit over here. So it'll be taking over this spot over here, which will also match up with her doing this number right here as well. So while the moon is taking up one spot, a couple other things are going to be taking up on the opposite side. So that being said, moving right along. So the writer and artist, I believe her name is Takeuchi. Well, her last name, that is. Yeah. Um, Aside from uh, Rumiko, Rumiko Takahashi and Studio Clamp and uh, whoever it was that did a series called Revolutionary Girl Utina. They were basically the main, I guess, commercial front runners for uh, more action based shoujo. And I hope you guys don't mind, but I'm gonna drop this down just a bit. So I can only see what I'm doing. So the main character whose name I'm just not forgetting. She is Japanese, which, despite the blonde hair, we are going to be giving her uh, some Asian features. So that way, it's the point across. Blocking in. I feel like the eyes, nose, and mouth are going to be. Then we're going to go ahead and start darker lines down. So I had a very interesting question that came about. I think it was Thursday, and it had to do in reference to a couple episodes back when I was talking about uh, perfection. And basically, the concept of perfection is more so a state of mind than anything else. And before someone, uh, you know, goes off the rails, I want to explain really quickly why I'm saying this. So, let's say you put together, uh, you know, something artistic to which you say it's perfect. And you show it off to the world saying, well, look at my, perfect piece of art that I've made. Well, the problem with that is for every one person that says that something is perfect, 10 people can find the imperfections in it. If you don't believe me, I mean, you can look at almost any argument in the face of the planet. You've got people that are just like, oh, this piece of technology, it's perfect. Well, 10 people are going to find the imperfections in that technology. You know, this is probably hurt some people who love classical art, but there are some choices with the anatomy in classical art. While I will state that all those guys, they are the OGs, they are the masters at their crafts. And it's possible to be a master at your craft. And that's something that I hope one day I can get to that level. But uh, there are some choices and, certain sculptures and paintings regarding anatomy um, that is not entirely uh, correct. But the thing is that, if you're looking at it from a glance, if you're looking at it from a certain angle or distance, it makes sense. Um, which you're probably going to be asking me for example. I do not remember the name of the painting. I just know that it's one of the first paintings regarding forced perspective, and it shows a body, and at the in front of the viewer is the feet, and then it's the rest of the body uh, laid out uh, horizontally with the head moving further away, and it looks like the head is about the same size and perspective as the feet, which isn't right. But also got to keep in mind it's one of the earliest showings of forced perspective in art. And so, but I mean, the painting itself is beautiful. The mood of it is beautiful. Um, but there is the imperfection. Uh, we can take something like the Mona Lisa, beautiful painting. The choice of color, the choice of um, the subtleties within it, great piece of art. But if you really start to dig deep into not the conspiracy theories, but really digging deep into, say, the symmetry, uh, the choice of the pose, how one side of the face looks like this while the other side of the face looks completely different, and yet somehow they work together in harmony. It's strange. It doesn't make sense. In which someone can argue and say that it is imperfect. But, we learn from it. And that's the whole point of learning, right? So, that being said, um, the concept of perfection is a state of mind. Because after all, everyone's trash another man's treasure. Deep thoughts with the deep. Oh, gosh. Can't believe I was thinking about that meme. All right. So, which brings me to the second point. While the concept of perfection is very much a state of mind, um, the concept of excellence is not so much a state of mind, but it is a very attainable thing. And excellence is something that really is a lost art in a lot of things, in a lot of areas. And it's definitely something that is being lost with future generations. Right. So Sailor Moon's ridiculously long 90s hair. It's there. And let's see, earrings, neck. And I'm gonna erase some of this. She's got a choker of some sort, and it has a crescent moon right in the middle of it. We've got collarbone, collarbone, and the rest of the sailor uniform. Um, so for those of you who don't know, um, the concept of the uh, school kids, specifically school girls, wearing these very naval themed sailor uniforms as their school outfits, uh, which the school uniforms, as far as I know, are still mandatory. Um, all stems back from World War II. And you're probably wondering, well, why? Why are they wearing it? Well, like I said, stems back from World War II, German influence, and of course, with Japan at the time being a part of the Axis, there was an obvious influence. Now, I believe that which with the sailor uniforms, they only last when you reach X grade, or sometimes, depending on which school that you end up transferring to, um, will also denounce uh, that uniform for more of a private school ish type uniform. But the biggest difference is that with, say, her, you know, fighting evil suit versus a an actual um, school uniform is the length of the skirt, um, which the lengths of the skirts are, I want to say they go probably close to knee length. But it's generally whenever you either go to high school or you get transferred to a more private school, that the uniforms automatically change to more of a business suit type school uniform. Um, and the guys, they would wear really not even sure what to call their uniform. It's obviously not nautical related, but it definitely looks like a military uniform. Uh, Generally, it would be all black. Okay, so in order to deal with the first couple of sections of folds, we're going to be looking at the lapel going down to the bow. So because the neck is right here and right there, the inside of the lapel part is going to be right here, and it's going to curve right there because you got to keep in mind her shoulders are a bit angled. And there's like this gold brooch thing that's right here. I want to clean that up just a bit. So the back of the neck area is going to be a bit rounded. So it's going to go up just a bit. So here, there, then because these really weird puffy shoulder things, this is going to angle up. So like that. Curve our way down. Then we've got the giant bow. And I'm actually going to erase part of this because the bow is going to be in front of it. So we're going to have it arc just a bit. And we're going to have it move here. And then just slightly off of it, we're going to do this number. Almost kind of like we're creating an upside down T. An angle, I'll curve back in. Then we're going to do the same here, but instead of showing that, we're just going to do this number. And the reason being is, is that because of how the body has that twist, we're not going to automatically see it per se, but we do on this side. Then we've got another set of bow underneath, and so I do this number and I'm going to give it a little bit of a curve right here and sharpen that back in. And we're going to do the same thing on this side. Boom. All right. Okay, so as I stated earlier, hair is going to be over on this side. So like if the wind's blowing over here, it would make sense for the skirt to also be blowing this way. Now, like I stated, typically the schoolgirl uniforms would be at least at knee length. Character designs that Takeuchi has drawn, she did it differently. So it's very 90s, uh, prototypical party girl skirt length. So that being said, we're going to be drawing it exactly like that. In which someone out there will probably be saying, smashing! Oh, Thornhill. All right. Let me make sure I've got angles correct in just a bit. Yeah. Okay. So there is another bow, and it is right behind her, around the waist area. We'll get to that later. So we're going to be dealing with the plated, or sorry, pleated mini skirt that she wears. So the hardest part of all of this is going to be when it goes from on one leg going towards another leg, basically. And it's always been something that has tripped me up over the years. Man, I cannot speak for some reason. And it's probably because I got a piece of gum in my mouth. I'm trying to talk at the same time. Probably should have spat this thing out before I started a live show. All right, so what we're going to do is that we're going to deal with this hardest section first. And the reason being is that if we can lay that down first, then either side comes together, and then we finally figure out exactly how to do it. So, and which if you guys have been following me on social media, I did Ryoko Matoi from Kill la Kill, in which her character also has a skirt that's pleated, and so we're going to kind of do sort of the same thing to a degree. So ah, this. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to say this part is like the focal point of, or even a fulcrum of that extent, of whether we're going to choose the skirt flapping, left or flapping right. In this case, we're flapping right. So we're going to do this, that, and this. So that's going to be the one that we build it going on either side of the leg. And then what makes it even more interesting is to the fact of, well, this is just the top part of it. Whenever we've got the pleat here, and then the pleat over on this side, well, there's got to be something underneath the show that it's moving back and forth, giving it body, giving it an idea of basically a 3D depth per se. So the easiest way to do it is kind of cheat just a little bit, trick the eye into thinking what it's seeing and what it's interpreting. So instead of having a full down here, we're actually going to tuck this in just a bit right here. And then we're going to move over. And because this is curved, and we're going to show this. Why? Because connect, connect. And there we have shown depth. If only the Renaissance masters can see us now. All right. So that's really simplistic, easy way of trying to connect these things together. Now you can go to the nth degree and show every single connecting depth to the folds. Excuse me, but that does get a little bit tedious. And if you're stuck on a situation where it's time sensitive, you're going to have to cut a few corners, and this is one of the easiest ones you could possibly do. So going over to this one, this right here, and we're going to angle this like that. Boom. We have yet again show depth. And so it's not exactly always going to go underneath it, because as you can see, we're kind of going up with the hip. So the length of the skirt, it's not going to be down here. It's actually going to be slightly up. Then same thing applies going this way. There you have it. A pleated skirt moving with the wind. All right, so the next thing that we're going to be dealing with is shoes, thighs, and we're going to have to raise that up just a bit. All right. So something that I've realized over the years, and something that I've been doing wrong uh, to an extent, and it wasn't until it was kind of uh, pointed out to me through looking at someone else's artwork uh, that I realized I had missed something whenever I was drawing legs. And it's basically when you start dealing with um, the part where the muscles are overlapping between uh, the thighs and leading down towards the kneecap. So, and this is just a really weird way of looking at it, but um, might as well just do it right here. So if the kneecap is right here and, thigh is right here, well, if I'm just going to go ahead and draw this back in. So if this is the groin area, and then we're looking at the thigh, and it's actually got a curve in first before leading to the second one, and that's where the kneecap is, because you can look at it as an overlap, then here, then kneecap. So ever since then, I've been having to rethink about uh, how I'm drawing that. And it's a super easy thing to overlook, and it really also depends on, how close and how far away the character is to. Because if the character is like super far off the page, no one's going to know. But if they're front and center, they're going to know. So there, and let's get this out a bit more, staying on the line. Let's see, what else was I thinking about? Yeah, so excellence. Excellence is definitely something that any one person should strive in whatever it is that they're doing. Because people can tell when they're just choosing to not be excellent in the things that you're doing. And it could be any number of things that you're creating, things that you're managing, things that you're supposed to be in charge of. And, it's not supposed to be, Bill and Ted, you know, kind of situation. But, if you're married and, you're not doing the things that you're supposed to be doing in your marriage, then it's pretty obvious there's no excellence going on. Your spouse will know, your spouse will tell you. And we'll probably do an RKO out of nowhere just to make sure that you remember. But that's free advice to all the mothers out there on Mother's Day. So, that being said, strive for excellence. All right, so got that done. Her go-go boots things. They start basically almost like if you were drawing Wonder Woman's boots. And showing the heel just a bit. There we go. Boom. All right. Get that out of the way. And gonna make our way back to the arms. up. And, okay, so it's right there at the elbow. Right. There, and there. The forearm leading down. And she's holding a little scepter baton thingy with the crescent moon on it, which I'll look this up really quick. Sure that I'm drawing it correct, because I could have sworn that there is some sort of heart or another sphere. So I want to say that it like transforms into like a giant staff, I think. Um, I know that all the characters have their own individual stuff. Like Mercury has the glasses, and uh, Mars has the talismans. I'm not sure what Jupiter or Venus has, but anyways. All right. Okay. Super blurry picture. I love that for myself. Hmm. Okay. All right. So there is a heart. Okay. Of course. Why wouldn't there be? And I'm gonna use one of these. This will be a good one to use. Goes about right here, and this goes to about here. There is a, looks like a jewel, some sort of top. All right. Okay, so going back to the boots real quick. It's got that. And more crescent moons. And we're going to clean up these lines. Which, speaking of Wonder Woman, since I was saying, think of the boots as Wonder Woman boots, quite stoked that Tom King is going to be writing Wonder Woman starting at issue 800, which I believe is going to be coming out extremely soon. I want to say probably about the end of the month. Right. Okay, so we're going to go back to the face real quick, and we're going to be dealing with the hair and all the different kinds of rendering, folds, you name it. I'm really indecisive about how I want lips to look. And try to change shape of the eyes a little bit more. Okay. So her hair is kind of parted down the middle just a bit. And of course, you've got these, I don't know, spherical buns, I think. Yeah. Takeuchi, we're going to have a talk. I know it was the 90s, but man. All right. So, trying to think of the best way how I want to do this. And I think that way is just going to be just tackling it head on. So, all right. We know her tiara is going to be back here, and we are just going to do this number. So the best and the worst things about trying to render blonde hair is that sometimes you could do too much and it's just come out looking like hot garbage. And sometimes you could do too little and it can also come out looking like hot garbage. So the goal here is to get to the middle ground. So we're going to be looking at it like this. So we know the part's going to be basically right here in the middle. And I'm going to lightly create the different sections of her hair within that part. All right. So now that that is there and they're sectioned off, then what we're going to do is at the bottom, or I guess around, should say. So she does have sideburns. And this. And make sure I have this right. Okay, I am. We're good. We're golden. All right. And then do the same thing on this side. And what I'm going to do is, because the hair is kind of like going back up just a bit, we're going to do the same. And then we're going to erase this. The ears a little bit darker. And then for the middle section of the part, we're not going to do a full straight line, but what we are going to do is do that and just gently do that. And then again over here, then same situation over here. So we're not fully showing it all, but we are basically giving off the idea and impression that there are variants within all of this. And so I put a couple of lines back here to basically just kind of give off the understanding that the hair is kind of uniforms all around, almost kind of like a bob, but not really. I'm gonna quickly pop this in. Okay, so we've got these spherical buns right here, almost like Mickey Mouse ears, but not really. And then there is what looks like a giant ruby that's just kind of in both of them, keeping them in place. And if I remember correctly, they've got a bit of a twist going on. Okay, yeah. So and then so the twisting render, if you want to call it, is going to go clockwise on this side and then counterclockwise on the other. And it almost doesn't have to be completely uniformed. If you want to make it uniform, that's totally fine. And going to all this arm real quick. And we're going to clean up these lines with our favorite tool, the eraser. All right, so last but not least, we got the giant ponytails, and then we're going to be dropping in the colors real quick and the inks, and then we'll be done and calling it a night, which I'm assuming we can get all of that done in the next 30 to 40 minutes. So I don't know about you guys, but I like this little challenge. Let's go. All right. All right, so let me tell one and down here. And it does have a little bit of a curl, and we're going to be doing something that I have learned from Terry Dodson about curls. But let me lay down this. We could leave it exactly like that. It's totally possible, but since that's not going to happen, we are going to be doing the curls at the very end. So, like I said, something that I've learned from uh, watching Dodson draw is that we're going to create the curve of this curl. And then we are going to do this number. Same thing with this. And like the, rendering that we're doing over here, we are going to add in some lines, give it a little extra twist. So there you have that. Then, last but not least, we're going to have to add in lines for the rest of the hair. Okay, so I believe that should do it. All right. So now that we've got that out of the way, and there is a little bit of a decal thing going right here. Okay. All right. So that is there. And now we're going to be dropping in the colors. So, like always, we're going to be dropping in the skin tones first. And as I stated in the Goku video, instead of using the typical earth tones like we would be using for Caucasian or more melanin characters, um, we're going to be using two different of the palest yellow reds, um, silk and powdered pearl. No, powder pink. And I just found those to be a lot better of a skin tone for Asian characters. Or specifically lighter skin Asian characters. Let's see. I don't remember if I mentioned this in the last video or not. I don't think I did, but I got to go see Guardians of the Galaxy, and man, that was just absolutely fantastic. Uh, I mean, this is more likely I'm going to have to go watch it again at some point, see whatever Easter eggs that I've missed. Now, I have not seen Quantumania yet, and I'm kind of thankful that there wasn't any sort of like weird overlap of I would have had to have seen Quantumania beforehand. So thankful that that was not the case, because I know that there was some overlap with stuff that happened between phase two and phase three, and they tried doing that in phase four and did not work well. Um, but yeah, I know there was a lot of speculation about character dying within the main group, and this really isn't spoiling anything, but they all do survive. Um, that was just speculation and weird fan theory and stuff like that. So you don't have to worry about um, your favorite character dying. Um, but I will say that it's definitely a bittersweet ending. Uh, and Gunn did an amazing job of just taking characters that uh, just kind of have fallen on the wayside within Marvel and made them relatable and likable. Same thing with his work with the second Suicide Squad film, Peacemaker, and, which weirdly enough, I had a hard time liking the second uh, Guardians of the Galaxy film. It had a lot of good jokes. It had some interesting moments. Uh, I definitely felt like the story was just missing something at some place, and I'm not sure if it was just because they were introducing a bunch of characters that may or may not end up being in uh, the Infinity War. Or what, but definitely enjoyed uh, the guy who played High Evolutionary, which he was also in Peacemaker. Um, which, if you have not seen that, highly recommend. Uh, you could technically um, watch Peacemaker without watching the Suicide Squad, the second Suicide Squad movie, because they do show like little flashbacks here and there regarding to certain events that happen. But it's I would say definitely watch it just for the sake of context and all the funny moments. Yeah, he definitely gave the characters a lot of heart. And, of course, you've got the cult of Zack Snyder all trying to talk crap about James Gunn, and pretty sure they did the same thing about Jim Lee. But I definitely knew with what Gunn can do if he's just given the reins, he can definitely create something out of nothing and make it cohesive and work. And the fact of the matter is that he's definitely given that opportunity now, and as long as no one from Warner Brothers tries to step in, micromanage, take all that away from him, I think they're in the clear. Okay, I just realized I forgot to do the bow in the back. So, do that. Have it a little bit lower than I would have liked it to be, but I can still make it work. And I'm so glad that I spotted that or forgot. It's there, and then we've got boots. Yeah, I think the only other person I know that just likes to talk crap about James Gunn is probably the guys from Two Bros, which, you know, I've known Nick and Dustin for at least a year or two, so I like to poke fun at them whenever I see them in person. All in good jest. I know Nick has done his fair share of poking fun at me, so man, we definitely have that camaraderie going on. But all the people that try to create a clickbaity thing would have to be those two guys. All right, so we got the reds in, and we got the first layer of blue. So I'm using B5 and B6, which I like to consider them as my uh, Superman, Spider-Man blues. So they did have that classic um, superhero blue color I really like. And if you're wondering why I've got these little white areas right here, it is just because I am create a bit of a highlight and definitely feel like skirt needs a little extra sheen, a little extra sparkle. Sparkle. I have a feeling that Alan's just going to take that and turn it into a YouTube short. Also, kind of surprised he did not show up tonight that I know of. And very lax and checking the comments section as of late, which maybe I should probably do that right now. I'm thinking about it. Oh crap, we do have comments. And what you know, it is Alan. Sailor Moon got the boom eating maniacs that made me think the wrong thing. I think the WB bigwigs have learned a lesson on stepping in. Yes, they definitely have. Um, oh, Alan, just for you, in case you have missed it, but since you're talking about Sailor Moon having the boom, we can also say that Sailor Moon is smashing. Ah! Did it for the meme, did it for the walls. All right, so even though I am kind of lightly creating these patterns of sorts, I'm going to be going over that with a white pen later when we get to the inking phase. But I just wanted to drop this in so I at least have an idea of what to work with. And okay, this little crystal section right here, drop in. It's very light blue and a little bit of pink. All right, so now we got the base tones down. We're going to be going over with the shading of sorts. You enjoy that. All right, so we get the legs first. The shading. Kneecap. Fine. For the skirt. get some yellows in. Also had a conversation with this was, and this is probably a couple of weeks back, uh, about the topic of copy markers. I am, as of right now, a decent, very pro copy marker user. And it took me a while for me to find my footing and how to use them, um, how to make them to work to my advantage. They are an investment. They really are, which is why um, a Instagram artist who sadly am no longer following, just because they were trying to do a bunch of Ponzi schemes. Uh, but before he was doing that nonsense, he actually did give me some really good advice regarding to copy markers, and which I also ended up finding a book done specifically for manga artists about copy markers, and the book itself is a bit dated, but anyways, he well, basically the main concept with copy markers is the fact of, if you're looking at them, say, in a sense, think of it like like a vehicle, basically. A car is going to be expensive, sure, but you're not, instead of you having to repeatedly buy cars every single time that the car has run out of gas, you buy gas. So, in that sense, you're buying copics, then buy the refill for the color of the copy marker that you're using. And you'll be able to continue to use these instead of you having to rebuy these every single time, which is very expensive. And because that was something about, uh, growing up with Crayola markers that I just did not understand as to why they just didn't last long, and uh, to do the things that I was wanting to do. And so, yeah, after that was stated, it made sense, and they've been a very good investment. Uh, but if you are starting off and trying to learn how to use these markers, whatever, I highly recommend getting a set of the gray tones. And the reason I'm saying that is specifically the cool gray. The reason I'm saying that is that if you can understand how to create a gradient using uh, the gray tones, and that's with or without, uh, the use of ink to help create that gradient. Um, the more you'll understand about having to blend colors and get those nice creamy blends of lights and darks. And, I also highly recommend getting um, or just making a swatch of sorts of, if you are buying those colored sets, regardless if it's like a theme set or if it's like the 48 or 72 sets, that you make a swatch, because you would think that with like, let's say for instance, you would think that with say, what is it? It was like green 7 going to green 9, that the thought process is, oh, well, it's going to get progressively darker. Actually, no. Green 7 is actually a lot darker than green 9, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Um, so apparently they do like sections, like spectrums within the color itself, and then they do it in sections, and then yeah, it's just really strange. And then, coming to find out that I tend to use the yellow greens more than the actual greens themselves, because um, they just tend to look more green than the green that I'm wanting to use, which really doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But it's definitely a weird uh, situation when trying to learn how to use them. But they are a bit of an education, and they are definitely worth the money if you are wanting to learn and to invest in getting them. Uh, if you need, if you have any questions about using them, or wanting to learn how to use them, uh, please just, send me a message, and I will direct you the best way possible, trying to understand how to use them. And uh, and last but not least, we want to be putting in some gray tones. Specifically, we want to be using cool gray. Now, there are some different versions of similar alcohol-based markers. Prismacolor has a set. There's a company called Arteza has a set. There's another one called Chameleon. Uh, they've got like a really interesting blending method thing going on with theirs. I really, I think out of any of those, I think Prismacolor is the only one that I've had any sort of experience with. But don't really um, have anything really to say good or bad about the rest of them. I know that there's a um, cheap version called Master's Touch. I think that's what it's called. Maker's Touch. One of the two. Uh, there is that version. Um, and there's also one called Touch. Never used them. Uh, I do know of a few different professionals in the industry that have used Touch, but is really all that I know about that. Of course, they're blending them with like other markers and styles and stuff like that. So, but at the end of the day, it really does boil down to understanding just the simple, basic concepts of how to use the tools and making them work for you. All right, so I am going to be using a little bit of an earth tone to create a little bit of variance. A little extra depth. Probably should have checked to see if this thing needed to get refilled at some point. And barley beige, I like using it for shadow when it comes to Caucasian type characters, but also works when trying to create a different kind of hue for gold. And brass. So got that dropping in the shadow, which if you chase that with a warm gray, also creates more of a metallic look to it. Okay. And last but not least, then if I lipstick, I'm gonna get into an interesting little section right here, which is the moon. And I'm going to be using two different types of cool gray to create these sections right here. The moon. I forgot what artist it was that drew the moon one time, and it just absolutely blew my mind. I just did not think about that being a possibility. I think whenever you're just starting off, you don't think about the creators. I mean, it's not always totally, you know, a blindingly white sphere in the middle of the darkness. And I do remember it being a manga artist. I just don't remember who. But it's often made me think about better ways of how to do the same thing. And I'm pretty sure it was not Guitar Miura, even though he has indirectly influenced me in some of the stuff that I've done over the years. Which, speaking of Miura, we'll be drawing Guts in a couple of days. Which someone at the expo, I forgot who it is, knew about my gut sketch that I did uh, earlier in the year. So they bought that. Super happy about that. So whoever you are, thank you so very much for buying that. Had a couple of people ask about that after the expo. Like, sorry, it's already been claimed, bought and paid for. Which, speaking of, I've had several people uh, during the expo. By several, I mean about 7 or 8 inquiring about the Venom sketch cover. Uh, so the person that was supposed to get it, they never got it, never saw them at the expo. It was never paid for. So I didn't have to worry about, you know, refunds or anything like that. So it was just a gentleman's agreement, and I didn't see them. They didn't show up, and so it's basically up for grabs at Haven. So if you want to get that, it is there. As far as I know, I haven't checked, but as far as I do know, that is still up there. So. All right. And we're going to do one more pass. Get to bring all that. I have been getting questions and messages in my inbox on Facebook as far as commissions are concerned. As of right now, my commission list is closed. Now, I do know for a fact that there were 2 people that were supposed to get in contact with me about 2 different commissions that we had talked about. So it's still open up for those 2 particular people, but I do have quite a bit less to finish up and ship stuff out to people. So plus pages that I've got to do. So time is a bit preoccupied with that. So if you're thinking about asking about something, I do apologize, but I can, however, refer to a couple other people they can possibly get in contact with. Alrighty. Now the fun part, the inks. Okay. do something that I'm going to regret. So smaller size. Oh gosh, I forgot Sailor Moon's first name. I want to say her last name is Usagi. Just now came to me. Yeah, handle this a bit differently. All right, I think that will work. So, like with all inking, definitely takes a little bit of patience. With equal parts confidence. Else, you know, take over, fix it for you, then that is not excellent. And it doesn't matter if you're a penciler or an inker, expecting them to do it for you. It's not very excellent. If you're an inker and you're expecting the colorist to do all the heavy lifting with whatever is going on, it's not very excellent. Looks like we're having some issues with the cameras. Fun times. Skirt this around. Whoa. Hello. All right. Pretty sure someone's going to take anything that I've said and apply it to webcam situation. You're right. It's not very excellent. Now, I will say the downside to my doing colors first and inks last is that for the sake of time, uh, I'm not using a heavier pencil, like a 2 or 4B, to do more of a pronounced line. So that when the colors go on top, it's not going to, fade out. So that being said, I'm going to work around it. So many little details. Speaking of so many little details, did a Spider-Woman commission that was an interesting story to begin with. So client shows up uh, at the expo and talking for a little bit, wants me to do a Spider-Woman commission. I'm like, yes, totally. And of course, asked him later which one he was wanting, and it was Jessica Drew. So I'm like, I got you. We can do this. I mean, either version is fine. It was just more so I didn't want to do the wrong one and then end up being told after it's done it's the wrong one. So I was supposed to be on a blank. And I had, well, I had bought two from the recent Spider-Woman run. And I did a quick paper test on them just to make sure that it was the right kind of paper, which it was. And I had used one of them so far and zero issues with it. And so, uh, anyways, do this one for this guy. This is after the expo. It's definitely not during. But it's after the expo, start working on it, and I'm dropping down the colors, and lo and behold, uh, colors look like absolute garbage. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on because I originally put them down on the paper. It looked fine. It was just when I started drawing, not so much. So I took it upon myself to email him to let him know, hey, this is what's going on. Because honesty goes a long way when dealing with clients. They're paying you for a service, time spent, materials used, services rendered. And I did not have the time to find and order another blank. So I gave him an upgrade free of charge. And he was totally fine with that. So I said, great. So I started working on the upgrade. And if you haven't seen the final, it's basically Jessica Drew in a room full of Hydra soldiers, and she is zapping and blasting her way. And kind of surprised that no one has answered the question that I had asked in the post, but there are 24 Hydra soldiers in that picture. Which, I mean, yeah, you could say it's a bit overkill, but it worked. And Customer was super happy about that, which is always a plus. And when I showed the final of it to Reed uh, Reed Beeman, one of the guests who was on here a couple months ago, uh, basically made the joke that I was a glutton for punishment for putting in uh, that many Hydra soldiers in the one picture, and like, yeah, you're not wrong, not wrong at all. But it was one of those moments where it was just kind of like, if I have the moment, the flex, uh, something that kind of brings about my love for Shima, those giant sprawling battles that he did in Savage Tales of Conan, or all this epic fight scenes that Daniel Warren Johnson does. That would be my one moment to try and do that. Now, there's also a secondary reason as to why I do uh, colors before inks. I'm not sure if I've mentioned this or not in a previous video, but put the colors on first, you lay the inks on top, it makes the inks pop. It doesn't accidentally get faded away. I think too, it also depends on what kind of inks that you are using. All right, so this is where we're going to get into that topic that I was mentioning earlier, referring to the leg muscles. So we've got that little bend, bends again. Here we are at the knee. Bend the knee. It's a little Game of Thrones reference. Doing it again. Boom. And to insinuate it just a little bit more, All right, so dropping in some blacks here and there. And we're going to do it here on the heart. Also on the tiara. If that is all of that, then last but not least, a little bit of white. Send this out just a bit. And just this part. All right, so last but not least, I am going to be doing a quick cover up. I am going to use this again, and I'm just going to lightly go over. and just some sporadic hatching lines just to accentuate these spots a little bit more on the moon. And it's not even like a true hatching per se, but you know, kind of gets the point across that there's some texture going on the rock above. And I'm using 005 micron to do these really thin lines. But even without using this and just using the markers as the texture, the point still stands. Now, there are a couple of spots where uh, I am going to have to go back with one of the markers just to make sure that there isn't a white area in a place that just needs to be fully colored in, like right here, right there. Uh, but I will say, make sure that you let ink dry first before putting the marker over it, because the possibility of ink smudging, that is not fun. All right. There we have it, ladies and gents. But last but not least, never, ever, ever forget to sign your name we are done. Okay, so I thought I was going to be able to get all that done in 30, 40 minutes. Probably overshot it by an hour. So it is done. We've got it. Here it is, Sailor Moon. Thank you guys yet once again for joining me with this. And like I said earlier, if you are someone that you know is a fan of Sailor Moon, we do happen to have the very first issue, which is technically the first chapter of the first arc of Sailor Moon. Excuse me, here at Haven Comics. So if you want to get that, please get it. It's the only copy of it that we have left. Yes, it is a bit of a pretty penny, but you know, if you want it, please be sure to message our Facebook page if you want to set that aside for you to get it. So we're going to end off with a little bit of the usual housekeeping stuff. Haven Comics is located 1871 Slaughter Road, Suite F in Madison, Alabama. And please remember to like and subscribe. Click the bell notification so you can figure out whenever we are going live, which is generally either on Sundays or on Thursdays with the Shop Talk. And if you want to figure out where you can find me on social media, I just go to my link tree and use the username at tpriceartworks, and 9 times out of 10, if not 10 out of 10, you will find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And like I said earlier in the show, I do happen to have a Patreon in which things that aren't normally shown on social media all end up on my Patreon. So last but not least, I hope that you guys have a smashing week. And please remember to smash that like button and smash to follow anything else that I or Haven Comics happens to do for the rest of the foreseeable future. And that being said, wish you all a good night.